And now, a show with inappropriate language, The Powell Movement.
Welcome to The Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and as promised, I have someone on this week who is not affiliated with the Olympics or competitive skiing or snowboarding. I have a guy who legitimately can claim that his work has helped direct the sport of skiing to a much more fun and real place. My guest is Murray Wais, and he's the founder and one of the masterminds behind Matchstick Productions. His world is about traveling the globe, waiting for sun, and capturing some of the most insane shit ever done on skis. He's been doing it since the late 90s, and while the athletes really deserve all the credit, Murray should also get a little credit for helping to make skiing cool again. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into getting Murray where he is today, and we're going to talk about all of it. Before we do that, I want to ask you to follow me on Instagram at The Powell Movement, and please share my posts on social media. If you want to reach out to me for any reason, my email is mike@thepowellmovement.com. Finally, I need to thank my sponsors. They are evo.com, Rescue Water, the 10 Barrel Brewery, the Summit at Snoqualmie, and Unofficial Networks. Please support them and save some money by using the codes in the ads. Now, let's talk to Murray Wais. And we are here at the Outdoor Retailer Show. It's like the biggest trade show you and I have been to in the States for skiing, based on them bringing the Outdoor Retailer and SIA show together. I'm here with Murray Wais. How do I even pronounce your last name?
Wais.
Wais, okay.
Yeah.
With the A, it always screws me up. I'm here with Murray Wais from MSP, Matchstick Productions, and we're going to talk about the Matchstick story. Murray, how's the trade show going?
The trade show's going good. It's nice to see the two OR and SIA combined. You know, I've been coming to outdoor trade shows for years, and they've gotten a lot smaller, in short, and seeing them combined makes a lot of sense to me because it doesn't seem like there's reason to have multiple trade shows.
You see this stuff once, you don't need to see it twice when you're placing your order. But over the years, you have been to this show, and it was in Vegas for a long time. You've probably seen some crazy shit over the years. And take me back to some of the crazier moments of the Vegas show for you, or just some of the dumb shit you saw.
I think that some of the crazier shows I remember, and I don't know the exact year, but I'd say mid to late 90s when snowboarding was really taking off. At one trade show, there was 350 snowboard manufacturers.
Oh.
It was crazy. And it was so many people displaying. And what that resulted in is that people spent super lavishly on after parties just so that they could get people's attention and get them to places. So one trade show, I remember every single night, it was a crazy, really popular band for free with free drinks in like a really nice venue, like the Hard Rock Hotel. There's a famous concert venue there. I can't remember the name of it, but there would be like one night was Jurassic 5. The next night was like U2 or something. It was crazy. It was literally like you could go to a rad music show every single night for free, like for 4 nights.
Back then, it was a party. You went to the trade show. You expected to go out, see your friends and party. Here in Denver, it's more about seeing the products, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different experience. What do you like better?
Well, I like that. You got to see music shows for free, and it was crazy. I can't remember any specific instances of out-of-control trouble or anything like that. I mean, when I first went to the trade show, before Matchstick was a business or we'd only made a film and we were just trying to get into the shows, I remember going to Vegas with Steve Winter. We borrowed my girlfriend's car, drove down from Seattle, slept in the car in the parking lot, brushed our teeth in the hotel lobby, and washed our faces in the hotel lobby of the hotel, and then stood out front until we saw someone come by with a badge, asked someone to borrow it, and then snuck in and then gave it back to someone. And actually, the very first show that we went to, Steve saw Glenn Plake walking by. And he ran over and grabbed Glenn Plake and was like, "Hey, Glenn, can I borrow your badge to get into the show?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem." Glenn loaned us his badge, snuck in the show, gave it back to Glenn, did the 2 shuttle way to get in. It was pretty funny. That was the first year. It was crazy, just having no money and winging it and getting there, and then making connections with K2 Skis and Powder Magazine from that very first trade show. And then they were really supportive of what we were trying to do from the very beginning. So it was cool.
That's the struggle, and it seems like anybody who's come up in this industry has those nights of, we don't know where we're going to stay, but we've got a car.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you brushed your teeth, but you did that.
Yeah.
That's the struggle it takes to really succeed in this industry, at least to start in this industry, especially when you're blazing a new trail. But life starts for you in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, I was born in Seattle. Yep.
How long did you live in Seattle?
I went all the way through high school there. I went to Redmond High School, graduated there, moved to Wenatchee, Washington. They had a ski academy, ski program there. So I went there for a year and a half, went to college at the University of Oregon for the next 4 years, graduated, moved back to Seattle, got a job working at Microsoft.
Whoa.
In the early 90s, actually sat in a cubicle, was on the other end of a 1-800 number, and people would call up and buy Microsoft Word or actually they'd buy the Office suite, and I'd sell it to them for $49.95, and I'd basically like take their information, type it into a computer, and then they'd ship it to them.
That is crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah. Did that for a year right out of college. I made $350 a week, and I was like, this is the best job for about 6 months. And then I was like, the money's great and I'm loving it, but it was really hard for me to personally live a life where I sat in a cubicle with about probably 150 of us. And then at the end of the office was your boss sat, and then you'd go in and chat with your boss and they'd tell you what was up. I remember very distinctly going in there and having conversations with these people that I couldn't relate with, didn't really understand, and they were determining my fate. And that felt very weird and frustrating. And there was no way that I realized that I was going to be able to live a life where someone that didn't know me, didn't have any idea what I was doing, was judging my job performance, in short.
Well, you jumped way ahead. I'm going to jump way back.
Yeah.
I didn't know you worked at Microsoft, though. That's interesting. I wonder if you would have stayed there a little bit longer, if you would have gotten stock options and you would be set for life.
No, I was so down the totem pole.
Well, I even heard the secretaries got rich. You would have been so rich, Murray. It would have been crazy. But growing up, you started playing Little League and Steve Winter was on your team. Yeah.
I started playing baseball, I think, probably in kindergarten. And then
Who plays baseball in kindergarten?
Everyone.
Do they? I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate baseball.
Yeah, and then Steve Winter wasn't on my team. I met him in Babe Ruth, which was like 7th or 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you guys become fast friends or just knew each other?
We knew each other pretty well, and I think that we became fast friends a couple years later in high school.
Okay.
Like mostly our senior year, junior year in high school.
I read somewhere that you guys bonded over partying. He was more of a jock. You were more of a punk kid.
Yeah.
And then you liked to party, and I don't know what you're partying with at that point.
We were both rebellious, trying to find our space. And yeah, that's how we bonded. Just fucking off and doing stupid stuff.
Did you guys get in trouble in high school?
Not big trouble. I got arrested once for drinking, but I never got in a lot of trouble. I never stole anything or really broke the law, but I definitely didn't pay attention to school, ignored it, got horrible grades.
But is that why you went to a ski academy after high school?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you needed to do that to get your grades up to go to school?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of knew that college was the right path for me, but I was more concerned in high school about being cool than like doing good at math.
Yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous, really. But, that's kind of how I got to know Steve and hang out with Steve. And he went to the same ski academy after high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were like a punk rock kid.
Yeah.
Did you play any sports, or was it like full on punk rock, jackets with studs on them and smoke
It was full on punk rock, smoking cigarettes with studs on them. But I did actually play soccer and lacrosse.
And were you good?
No. I was pretty good at soccer when I was younger, but then right when I hit high school, I went through like a growth spurt and I was super awkward. I was like, went from being one of the fastest kids to actually the slowest, which was super frustrating and weird for me.
And when you say you went on a growth spurt, you went from about 4'9" to 5'1"?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I went from probably like 4'5" to 5'5",
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we are about the same height,
Yeah.
I think. We're about 5'9"-ish, somewhere around there.
Oh, I'm only 5'7".
So I tower over you. I dunk on you. Your parents, they have money? Is life easy growing up? Or?
Yeah, it was great, man. My dad worked at Boeing. My whole family worked at Boeing, actually. Grew up in Redmond. My dad was super cool, super supportive. Signed me up for the ski bus for the Lake Washington School District. We'd go to Alpental every Saturday.
Is that how you got into it?
That's totally how I got into it. Starting in about 3rd grade, so probably like 9, 10 years old. He'd put me on the ski bus Saturday morning, super early. First time I went up to Alpental, got on the bus, rode up there, rode on the rope tow all day, got super exhausted. I specifically remember laying there at the bottom of the rope tow, tired as can be, couldn't get up, and had to go pee super bad, and just couldn't get up, couldn't take my skis off, just peed my pants right there at the bottom of the rope tow.
Kind of like last night.
Yeah. And then I had to ride the bus home, totally soaked in the pee and the whole nine.
So your parents put you on a bus in third grade and you were solo all day long and then came back home?
Yeah, totally.
That would not happen today, I don't feel like, for a third grader.
I bet you they still have the exact same program with Lake Washington School District.
Third grade's 8 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine putting my kid on a bus. I mean, it'd be awesome. See you, dude. But it's a totally different world. You could do a lot more back then than you can now.
Yeah. And it was super fun. And I learned how to ski powder. I basically learned how to ski. And every year it was probably like 10 weeks or something. So
you take your post-grad year to get your grades up and get into college, and you go with Steve. And I'm sure it's all about shredding POW as much as you can at that point.
Yeah.
At that point, the skis must suck. I mean, you must have been on like 70 millimeter underfoot and skiing deep, heavy Northwest snow.
Oh, fuck it. There was two choices, slalom or GS skis.
Okay.
And you had to make it work. I can't believe how much better skis are now than they were then. But yeah, we dealt with the skis that were in the 80s that, like I said, it was slalom or GS, and they were all designed around ski racing. So that was the choice. And then like an all-mountain ski was basically the exact same shape. It just had an all-mountain name on it. Are they 70 underfoot? I don't even think they are.
I guess 70 because that sounds really narrow to me, but I mean, it could have been way less.
Yeah.
At that point, snowboarding is taking off. And in the Northwest, there's a lot of snowboard pioneers.
Yeah.
And are you seeing the sport grow from the grassroots level in Seattle?
You know, I graduated high school in 1986, so really the mid-'80s. And I actually tried snowboarding then and thought it was great because I was really into skateboarding all through high school. So I tried snowboarding, but the snowboards were so bad. There was no high backs to it. There was no edges. They had fins on the back that made it impossible to turn.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't everywhere around, but I remember specifically meeting the founder of GNU, rode at Ski Acres. I'm not sure what it's called now.
Central, maybe?
Yeah, next to Snoqualmie Pass.
I think it's Central.
That place allowed snowboarding, so there was a kind of a little bit of a scene there. I remember meeting the founder of GNU then, but it was like one or two people, not really around all that much. Mount Baker, though, was pretty encouraging and open to it. And I remember going there a few times and seeing people that could actually ride. But at that same time, like I mentioned, the equipment was so bad that it just really didn't interest me at all because ski equipment was so much better. Snowboarding was so new, it wasn't really even a thing. It's crazy.
Are you watching ski movies? I mean, the Stump movies must be out at this point or starting to come out.
Not so much then. It was just Warren Miller. It must have been like right around 1990, 88 or so. Steve and I went down to a Warren Miller movie in the Paramount Theater in Seattle and talked to Warren Miller and talked to him about making movies and what that was all about. And, you know, he was definitely really nice and accommodating and told us, I remember he's like, if you guys really want to make ski movies, then, you know, be prepared to not have any money and sleep in your car and suffer because it was a long road to get where I'm at right now. And, you know, we were at the Paramount Theater and Fifth Avenue Theater, actually, which is a beautiful theater in Seattle that seats probably 2,000 people. And he was packing it for 5 nights, you know.
Wow.
Huge presence there. I just remember him being super accommodating, super nice and encouraging, but, you know, telling us that it was going to be a hard road and how long that he'd spent living in the parking lot in Sun Valley, living off rabbits and ketchup soup and the whole nine. So
we lost him just 2 days ago, I believe. So
yeah.
Yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yesterday, I think. Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, sad. That's what happens when you're 93. He's lived an amazing life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd read his book this year. His story was inspiring and crazy. And for anyone who hasn't read his book, I'd, you know, highly suggest reading it. The cool parts about, you know, the beginnings of the ski industry and what it was like in the very beginning and how influential he was in actually bringing the whole sport to popularity and, you know, seeing how small it was back then in the day.
Did you guys see any of the performer stuff too, or was that before your time?
We saw all the performers stuff, actually. K2 actually commissioned us to remake a performers movie in the 90s. So yeah, we'd seen all that. I watched all those films, and those were very influential as well. K2 was actually always into ski movies. They did The Performers. They sponsored Stump, and they led that whole charge. They gave us our start. They're our very first sponsor. They backed what we did. That was just their vibe.
They did do some of the traditional race stuff with Mare, but they hung their hat on staying away from that.
Yeah.
And maybe representing everything in skiing, but the side that's the counterculture and the side that the prim and proper people don't like is what K2 embraced.
Yeah, for sure. And so they were like very encouraging to us from the start. We were from Seattle. They were in Seattle. There's a bunch of great people there. I think that they sponsored the Mares basically because they were from Seattle too. I mean, I don't know that it had anything to do with their ski design.
They probably built whatever the Mares wanted, I would think. You know, like, hey, guys, we're Washington, you're Washington. Yeah. The Mares are good old boys who are like, yeah, they are Washington, and we are too. We're going to ski the shit out of these skis for them.
Exactly.
Just good old boys. That whole family's pretty awesome. You end up going to your post-grad year, and Steve does as well. So it's like you guys are joined at the hip. You guys are you best friends at this point, would you say?
Yeah, we're best friends. We went to Wenatchee Valley College in Wenatchee, Washington, over by Lake Chelan.
And skied Mission Ridge?
Skied Mission Ridge, yep, every single day. And that's really where I learned to ski. And that's how I got good at skiing. They offered a program at the time that probably had like 250 kids in it. And they had ski area management and then ski instruction and coaching. And I was in the ski instruction and coaching program. So they taught you how to be a ski instructor / race coach. And I did that for 2 years. And our winter term would actually meet right on the mountain at like 9 a.m. every single day. So you'd ski all winter on the mountain every day. And that's really where I fell in love with the sport. And as much as anything, I remember falling in love with the whole attitude of going up on the mountain every day and hanging out with the people that were there. Everyone from the lift ops to the cat drivers to the ski instructors to just people that were really into skiing. And then being in that like-minded group is really what I fell in love with. And, you know, I knew that at that point, after the first year, I was like, this is probably what I want to do with my life, be around the skiing.
The lifestyle that people lead and the positive vibes that go along with it. There are no bad days. I mean, you're glued to the Weather Channel. You weren't then because they didn't have the Weather Channel because you're old. But if you were young, you would have been glued to the Weather Channel. Yeah. If it was a powder day, you'd wake up early and shred, then drink some beers, smoke some weed, and then head back and do it again the next day. That's a great way to live your life. And then you got PSIA certified too, right?
Yeah, I did. I got PSIA certified, and then I went to Colorado. I taught for 1 year in Breckenridge.
So you were a full-on ski instructor?
Full-on ski instructor. Only for 1 year.
Did you ever have the hot woman that you were teaching that took you to the bar afterwards and like gave you that 80s ski movie experience?
I never did have that, but I did meet lots of girls for sure in Breckenridge in the late 80s doing that job. But no, never had the older cougar.
Well, I wish you would have made up a story and you were like squirrel and you're in the gondola. It was just amazing.
I wish.
So eventually you guys part ways, you and Steve. I don't know where he goes, but you go to University of Oregon.
Yeah, exactly. He stayed on and kept working in the ski industry as an instructor. I went to University of Oregon and studied journalism. I really wanted to be a writer, kind of from a pretty early age. But I went to University of Oregon to get a journalism degree and learn how to write. They taught me there. They had a great journalism school, and yeah.
And you have fun there?
I did. I had a lot of fun. While I was getting my journalism degree, I also, like I mentioned, I took 1 winter quarter off, taught skiing in Breckenridge because I wanted to see how amazing the Colorado resorts were, which was a huge letdown coming from Seattle.
Yeah.
Actually going there, I was like, this is a mega resort. This sucks. It's flat and it doesn't snow. And yeah, I did that. And then at that school, I learned to ride, had a great time, and I coached racing at Willamette Pass, actually, too. And I was on the Oregon ski team.
I didn't really know that you had a ski race background as well.
It was kind of by default. Mogul skiing wasn't super popular. If you wanted to be like kind of in ski culture, it was ski racing was really the only ski culture that there was.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of by default that I did that. And I raced on the Oregon ski team and actually coached 1 day at Willamette Pass as well.
So that's college for you. You're able to ski all the way through it.
Yeah.
And before we get further into your story, I'm going to take a second to talk about my sponsors.
Cool.
My first sponsor is Evo. And Evo is way more than the best ski, snowboard, surf, bike, skate, and clothing website in the country. Why? Well, for one, they also have retail locations. They are in Denver, Seattle, and Portland, and they carry the best brands and only hire the most knowledgeable and approachable people to make your shopping experience great. The stores themselves are a gathering place with a cause. They're an art gallery, a movie studio, a travel base with the goal of making your adventures more fun. On the web front, Evo offers a low price guarantee, free shipping on orders over $50, and a no-hassle return policy. And they have a ton of sales. On top of that, for listening to the show, they're going to give you 10% off your entire order. When you check out at evo.com, use the code capital TPM, the number 10, it's all one word, at checkout, and you'll get that deal. My next sponsor is Rescue Water. And if you've been listening to the podcast and you still haven't tried a Rescue Water, well, you're blowing it. Why? Rescue Water is all about proactive recovery. And I'm sure you're wondering to yourself right now, what does that even mean? Well, think of it like this. If you're really tired, you skip the coffee and you grab an energy drink. It's a no-brainer. Well, if you really need to hydrate, like when you finish your workout, get done practice, or get off the mountain or trail, skip the sports drink and drink a cold Rescue Water. There's no better choice for replacing electrolytes, and you'll feel better than ever. I should mention that I drink one before bed on big nights, and I wake up without a headache every time. I highly recommend you trying that as well. It really works for me, and you can make it work for you by heading over to rescuewater.com. We're going to make it easier than ever for you to try it because we're going to give you 20% off a 12-pack case. When you are checking out, you want to enter the code RESQ Water TPM. It's all one word, and you'll get that 20% off your 12-pack. Those are my sponsors, and we'll get back into your life. You finish school, and immediately after that, what do you do? I mean, I know you get an internship with Powder, but does that happen right when school ends?
No. I finished school, and I actually moved back to Seattle, and I got a job at Microsoft, taking the other end of a 1-800 number, working in a cubicle.
So you're working phone sex for Word, and you sell a bunch of that for $49.99 a minute, and that goes really, really well. But you eventually quit that because you realize it's not for you?
I actually got laid off. I remember there was probably 150 people in the room, and I was one of 20 that they said, okay, you suck at this, let you go. It wasn't even you suck at this, we're scaling back, and you're one of the people that got laid off, and that was actually probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
What do you do after that? You're living with mom and dad at that point, you go home?
I think right after that, I got a job at Ray's Boathouse in Seattle. I waited tables there. And then in the meantime, I sent a letter to Powder Magazine to be an intern because I really wanted to get more into skiing. They wrote me right back and sent me a grammar test that I had to take. I sent it back to them, and they said, you're accepted. You can come work here for free. And started working as an intern at Powder Magazine. And my primary role there was writers submitted articles typed up on paper.
Okay.
And then I would take those articles and then I would retype them and put them into the computer into a format where the editors could edit them and redo it.
That's so insane that
I know, right?
Do that.
But it was really good for me at the time because it made me read what all of their writers were writing and basically transcribe it for bit verbatim, so I could really study it that way.
So you're seeing how good writers are writing, and you can become a good writer from there.
Yeah.
Do you get to go on any trips? Do you get to meet any people that you really wanted to?
Yeah, tons. Those guys at Powder were super cool to me. Really nice. Dave Reddick actually had just started at Powder Magazine. He actually still works at Powder Magazine as a photo editor. I had no money, and he had just started there, so he had a little money. So he would help me out, make me dinner, which was huge, because I didn't have any money to eat, and they weren't paying me. And went skiing with him a few times. The whole Powder staff invited me to a trip to Mammoth. I remember that was a really fun time. And they actually gave me an assignment to cover the 1992 or 1993 extreme skiing competition in Crested Butte, Colorado. And they assigned me to go there and paid me $1,000, I think, to go write a story about it and give me some expense money. And then I went to Crested Butte. They gave me free hotel. They gave me lift tickets. And then I went and watched the race. And at that event, I actually met Seth Morrison, Dean Cummings, Doug Coombs, Dean Conway, a bunch of different people at that very spot. And Steve Winter was actually working on a ski movie and happened to be in Crested Butte and kind of followed that tribe to that event. So he was there at that same time. And that's kind of when I reunited with him after college. So
that trip, is that when you realize, hey, this is where I'm going to move and this is where I want to be for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I mean, it was so... I remember being there at the time and thinking how cool it was and shredding with all of those people and seeing this whole, I want to say, counterculture of skiers that weren't ski racers, but that were really into skiing powder and like big lines. And there was a real endurance factor to it on top of that. Like, it's really hard to ski like a 2,000 foot bump run fast and like do it with shitty skis in style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just like that whole scene and like really getting out there and ripping hard. I remember thinking in my mind, like, this is something special and this is something I want to be a part of. That's when I decided that I would try to make my life in Crested Butte. Steve offered me a position to work on a movie that he had gotten some private funding for. And that's kind of how I got started.
Is that Project Nachos and Fear? Or you came in right after that, I feel like, to go to SIA.
Yeah, he actually made Nachos and Fear pretty much on his own. I helped him a little bit with like some notes and some ideas, but he did it on his own.
Nachos and Fear, though, that's when Steve recruits you to go to SIA and you guys are total dirtbags here.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most important trip of your life at that point because you get here, meet these sponsors, because really the most important trip of your life is going to Crested Butte and meeting the athletes and getting that connection. Mm-hmm. But to be able to do what you do today, you need money. Can't do shit without money.
Yeah.
So you come to this trade show like total dirtbags. You get Glenn Plake's pass to get in,
exactly,
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're going to pick anybody. You might as well have his badge.
Well, he's so recognizable.
But I mean, that's the thing is like people seeing the badge, they know you're not Glenn Plake. You have a lot less hair than he does.
Yeah.
I don't know about back then.
Yeah.
You get in there and K2 right away says, hey, we're going to support it. And Powder's going to help be your media partner, I would think.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Right from the get-go. And North Face, too.
Okay, so you have 3 solid people behind you. Where you're like, holy shit. You guys must have been looking at each other, blown away, like laughing, like this is happening.
Fully. Super inspiring. At the time, it was so different in the ski industry, too, because I feel like it was a lot of older people really were in skiing at the time. Steve and I were some of the younger people that were even talking to Powder Magazine or K2. There wasn't a lot of 20-year-old kids talking to them at all.
Yeah.
You know, so we were like some of the younger people at the entire trade show, but going there and making those connections was mind-blowing and it was eye-opening. But it wasn't enough money to like do anything more than buy a few rolls of film.
Oh, yeah, because back then you're working in film.
Yeah.
It's a totally different world.
Completely different.
When you first come on with Steve, because at that point he's got Real Adventure Films.
Yeah.
He brings you on for Soul Sessions and Epic Impressions. When you first come on, what's your role? Because it sounds like Steve's the one with the video bug.
Yeah.
And I say video, but it's film.
Yeah.
And he brings you on. And I mean, you're a journalist.
Technically, what we kind of thought my role was in the beginning was, so we only had one camera and we could only afford enough film to run through that one camera. So I would help him shoot that one camera and kind of be an assistant and help carry a tripod and set it up. And like, you know, we really prided ourselves. We really wanted to be like the fast moving, good skiing crew that we could get out there on the mountain and work with the athletes and set up our camera super quick so they didn't have to sit around and wait and then set up for the next shot and move. So we'd work together on that. And then really my role was like writing and like trying to come up with creative concepts for the film. And then, you know, what we quickly learned as we were doing the process is there was a lot of business to be done, i.e. we didn't even know what a producer was, but basically a producer is the person that makes shit happen. So I quickly became a producer and learned everything from editing, writing, music licensing, fundraising, all the things that it takes to really put a film together. So,
and everything you learned back then has changed. What you edited with back then, you're probably cutting film and doing things like that. You're not doing that anymore. It's all digital.
Yeah.
Your music licensing is asking for music and bands being like, hey, we want to be part of this new thing, where now it's like, no, you're going to pay a shitload for this song.
It was both. It was, editing was on VHS tapes. So you would like
2 decks?
Yeah, 2 decks. If you were going to make an edit, you had to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10 all in a row. So you had to think about your shots ahead of time and then lay them down. And we'd lay them down on VHS tapes with a time code on the screen. And then you would then take master tapes that match those VHS tapes to a big studio. And then they would help you finish the project. And that was the way it worked. And then music licensing was literally like sending faxes to record labels with like a specific request of what you were asking for and how much money you were going to pay. Or we were asking for songs for free. And I remember being like, yeah, we're going to give your band great exposure. And the people at the music record label being like, well, how many movies are you going to sell? And I'd be like, we'll probably sell like 1,000. And he's like, how is that going to make me popular or a big deal?
Yeah.
He's like, no one's really heard of this. You know, it's like, he's like, you guys are so small. It's not an actual promotion. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. But at the same time, in general, people were pretty cool to us. And we were able to license, at the time, some pretty popular stuff. I remember licensing Blind Melon, Beastie Boys. Their record label was like, oh, cool, yeah, we want to be all about it. NoFX was one of the first bands that we used. And I can't remember the name of their label, but I called there and talked to Fat Mike. And I'm like, yeah, I'm making a ski movie. We want to use one of your tracks, and it's going to be music and skiing and blah, blah, blah. Give him the pitch. And he's like, hang on a second, let me go ask Mike. And he like comes back on the phone and he's like, Mike says to fuck off. And I'm like dead silent. I'm like, what are you talking? And I'm like, and he just starts fucking cracking up. He's like, no problem, man. Use whatever you want. And like send him a deal, and they signed it. And yeah, those guys are still like one of the most legendary bands, I think. NoFX.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. At the time, I remember talking to record labels and talking to bands and being like, skiing? Are you kidding me? Is that like ice skating? And like them kind of thinking it was lame, for sure.
From what they saw, especially in the media, you saw snowboarding looking really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then skiing was people in Rafi stretch pants.
Yeah.
And, it's a totally different world.
Yeah, yeah. Ski ballet was still actually a thing then. So
I think Plake still does that. Are you guys making any money that you can actually pay your bills with, or just trying to live trip to trip at that point in life?
We're definitely living trip to trip, living together in the same house, using money that we're creating, selling movies to buy food and pay for trips, and, living very inexpensively.
Is that one of those times where a sponsor, K2, says, hey, we're going to send you 6 pairs of skis so you guys can have, and you're like, we're going to sell 3 of these. You get a pair, I get a pair, and we'll be good?
Yeah, definitely. So we made that first movie, Soul Sessions, and I think the only sponsor, I can't remember, but it might have been Just Powder Magazine. But we got that out on VHS tape and sent it around. Powder Magazine wrote a killer review. Skiing Magazine wrote a killer review. And we were able to parlay that into deals with Oakley and Smith and K2 and Blizzard Skis. I think we raised, I want to say like $45,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money back then.
It was crazy. We were kind of like hitting a spot too where Greg Stump had quit making movies. Warren Miller was making movies, but the feedback that we got from the ski industry was that working with Warren Miller was really expensive, right? And it was like they were probably just saying that because Warren Miller was charging a lot of money because they had a really big following.
I mean, his tour was ridiculous back then.
Ridiculous. I recently went to their offices, and in the early 90s, his sponsors were the biggest companies that you could have. It was Visa and Evian Water and Nissan. It was all like the biggest companies going. I mean, they must have been pulling in a couple $1 million. So like we came in as this low cost alternative. And the other thing that was happening is that a few companies realized that snowboarding was taking off and it had all this energy and all these young people were into it, and skiing was not that at all. And Steve and I looked like snowboarders. We were friends with all the snowboarders at the trade show, and the ski companies kind of realized that they needed to get into this space. And so that's why they got behind us, I think. And so the timing was, probably by our second year, that was where snowboarding really took off. And that gave credence to like all these rad snowboard flicks. But hey, skiing doesn't have anything like this. Well, here's these young guys that are doing the exact same thing, putting skiing in music and no talking. So we're going to get behind it. That was exactly how we got our start.
That was about 1994, 1995.
Yeah.
And as we fast forward a little bit, I'm going to go right to 1997.
Yeah.
There's a terrible helicopter crash.
Yeah.
Steve is in it. Photographer's killed.
Yeah.
Seth was in the helicopter as well. And Steve was fully paralyzed at first, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're in the hospital with him. I mean, as young guys like that, where you're taking risks and you never know what's going to happen, but it's all fun and games at that point before something serious happens.
Yeah.
And that's got to be the first real experience of, holy shit, our lives are on the line at all times and I almost lost my best friend. And what are you guys talking about in the hospital? Is it over, or what do you guys?
It's funny because it came up. So that whole helicopter crash was a big deal. I think we were finishing our third movie, And it was in August. So it was at the end of the year and the end of the production cycle. And it was, a bigger production for us. We were growing, and then that was a big stop. But basically, the helicopter crashed, and Steve was inside the helicopter, and he was pinned in the helicopter behind the pilot that died, next to our friend, T.R. Youngstrom, who was a still photographer. Something had hit him in the head, and he was bleeding out in his head. And they were pinned in the helicopter and stuck in the mountains for 5 hours.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, because it was just so remote, and they didn't have a satellite phone. They didn't have radios. The heliop didn't have a great way to contact back to the base or anything. So by the time they went and got them, Steve had pretty much froze to death out there, because he was in the shade and he couldn't get out. Seth actually got out of the heli, but had taken a big head injury and was super confused and was running around in circles and didn't really know what was going on. And I was going to be in the second load. They went out in the first load. The heli crashed. They stayed out there. And then when they finally came back, Steve came back. He was hypothermic. He was almost done. Seth had a head injury. I'd heard right then that TR had passed out on the accident. Steve took another heli flight to the Central Hospital in Santiago, and I went and talked to him. And, as soon as he was conscious and speaking again, he was very much it's one of the first things he said is, "This is horrible and this sucks, but I realized that this is a life that I want to live, and this is what I want to do." It was crazy. There was never a talk of let's hang it up or this is too risky or what that. And I think that he had very real experience with dying out there. He's told me as he was sitting there dying that very real. He thought, you know what? This is important to me. I like working with great people. I like living a life that's free and fun and exploratory and creative, and I want to keep doing it. And it kind of gave him a drive to keep going.
And that's just insane.
Yeah, it was.
He's never going to be the same again, as a person. How long does it take him to get better, at least because he walks, right?
Yeah, it took him a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it took him a year. He laid in bed and meditated, and they knew that he was paralyzed after the crash, but they were pretty confident that he would get feeling and nerve back.
Okay.
He had a spinal injury, but they were in general, you'll probably walk again. And since then, he has full mobility on his right leg, but his left leg is still half paralyzed. So he's never skied again since that crash.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Never run, never done anything.
His passion took his passion away from him.
Totally.
But it kept his passion going with the movies.
Exactly.
And then that puts you in a totally more important role than you've ever had with the company, because while Steve's the main filmer and you're the guy with the tripod and helping out set up, all of a sudden everything's on your shoulders to make this live, and you've got to do it for your best friend too.
Yeah.
He's passing the torch pretty much. What changes for you? I mean, how much more weight is on your shoulders? A
lot, actually, because I had to finish that movie and then get funding for another movie the next year and kind of keep the business going and do the whole thing. So there was a lot on my shoulders, but we had a lot of cool people that we worked with that were really supportive, that were very helpful to me. And there's a few key people in the production team that really helped it come along. And then Scott Gaffney came on.
That's what, 1999?
I think a little before. I think right after the heli crash. Scott helped us with the next movie. I'd met Scott Gaffney at that first extreme skiing competition in Crested Butte that Powder Magazine sent me to. I met Scott there. He was working on his own ski movies then. And then after the heli crash, I finished that movie, got that out, and then started production of the next one, and then recruited Scott to work on it. And Scott filmed on that movie.
Did you recruit Gaffney to get McConkey?
No, McConkey wasn't. I don't think McConkey was even a pro then. I think that Scott knew Shane. I'd have to look back at the movies and remember, but I don't think that Shane was in it yet. If not, it was quickly right there and after.
So you guys do 5 or 6 movies under the first brand. The second one, you guys rebrand as Matchstick Productions. How do you come up with the name?
At the time, we were Real Adventure Films, and there was another ski movie company called Real Action Pictures. And when we were approaching ski resorts and ski companies to film, they'd be like, "Oh, we already work with you guys." And we'd be like, "No, that's not us. This is this other company." So we had to come up with another name, and we came up with the name Matchstick Productions because we liked the idea of the unexpent potential energy in a match. You know? And if you light a match, something happens. And we kind of like the symbolism of that. It quickly became to, we're lighting the fire under the ski industry's ass to make them promote skiing and make skiing cool again, because snowboarding was so popular then and no one young would ever ski.
I would say you guys are what helped shift that in skiing. Because if you look at it, there's 3 main film companies, and I look at you guys as really the first. Yeah. You were before TGR, right?
Yeah. 2 years before.
Yeah. So you guys are the first. TGR comes out, and then there's Poor Boys.
Yeah.
Poor Boys is always like on a budget and never got as big as they should have.
Yeah.
You guys were big, and you had your finger on the pulse of the sport.
Yeah.
Everybody knew what was going on through you, and people loved what you were doing.
Yeah.
TGR was a little more underground at first. So you guys were the mainstream of what great ski movies could be.
Yeah.
And the ski movie series that came out like 99, 2000.
Yeah, exactly.
That really changes the game for you guys. You have 3 movies, and when I looked at those old movies, the skiing's amazing, the music's amazing. But I think what differentiates what you do now compared to then is not anything to do with the cinematography or anything. It's the people.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that you had in those movies back then.
Yeah.
Brad Holmes, McConkey.
Yeah.
I think Mosley was in some of those.
Yeah, he definitely was.
Seth, there's so much personality. Those guys were bona fide rock stars in the ski world. And if you look at it today, you can look at your cast of characters now or over the past few years.
Yeah.
The personality, you've got like Cody, he's got a great personality, but he's not McConkey.
No.
He's Cody and he's great, but I think he's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Sorry to compare you to him, Cody, but Pettit, it looked like he was going to be a spotlight guy too because he had personality, but he's Pettit. He's going to do his own thing. He's never going to be that icon in the respect that Shane and those guys were.
Right.
Did you guys know that you had gold with those guys when you were making movies back then?
Yeah, definitely. Seth, for sure. Seth was such a great personality, and I think he like smoked cigarettes in our movie, and he had like a green hair.
Yeah.
And, like he was like such an unbelievable ski talent, like a better skier than anyone that we'd ever seen. And all he wanted to do was make movies and devote his life to that. So just having him do that and be a part of it, we knew that he was the man. Shane, same way. That guy was like born to make ski movies. His dad was a big ski movie star. He was second generation. He was all about it. All he wanted to do was joke around, be on camera, go on shoots. Kent Kreitler, same way. Super into it. And then, like you mentioned, Brad Holmes, super passionate into it, hilarious dude. All those people, I think the big thing that we knew about it as much as anything is they really wanted to be in movies and they wanted to put the effort to make their part special and like be involved with the whole process and live the life and devote all their winter to it. And that was really everything. If I look back and really think about it, we knew that was gold just because that they wanted to do it so bad and that they had all these good ideas.
Speaking of ideas, one thing that you did that was so different than everybody too with sponsors was just your intros.
Yeah.
It was so crazy how you could make a sponsor intro look cool.
Right.
And whether it's logos on the pool balls rolling or all the different things you were doing.
Yeah.
Whose idea is that?
It was different year to year. A lot of it was Steve had great ideas, but like when you're in a production cycle where you're making a movie where you shoot it in 4 months, finish it in 9 months and get it out, it's a very collaborative, creative process. I think year to year it would be Steve would have an idea, I'd have an idea. Scott Gaffney certainly contributed great ideas as well.
In terms of athletes over the years, I mean, there's guys that you bring on a trip and you're like, one trip, this guy's going to be with us on every trip we can possibly have him on because he works hard and he's great. There's the other side of that too, where, God, we got this guy out here. He doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to shovel. He doesn't want to do anything that we're doing. Oh, he thinks he got his trick, so he's just going to sit down and do nothing. Have you had those guys on trips where it's like one trip and done, like you were never going to film with us again?
Probably. I can't think of who that is off the top of my head because it's the people that stuck with us that I really remember and work with. So in the early 90s, if you were on a ski movie shoot, you wanted to be there. So you would go there and make it happen. But then when free skiing, quote unquote, became a thing and kind of took off, then people were starting to get paid and they were getting a lot more obligations from sponsors, from everything from contests to coming to trade shows and whatever. And then people would come on shoots and it would be, there'd be a lot less motivation or people would just be burned out or exhausted or It must have been the mid 2000s when people were getting paid a lot of money, but then they also had a ton of obligations, and skiing wasn't a fun thing anymore. It was fully a job. And then when it becomes fully a job for people, they could come on shoots and be burned out and not want to shovel, or, they'd be there, but they'd complain the whole time.
And that just ruins a trip when you have a person like that, right?
Totally.
And it takes one.
Yeah. Almost every pro skier, I think, has been on a trip and been in a place where they're burned out and not into it and don't feel like doing it. Everyone from, maybe not Mike Douglas, but everyone from Mike Douglas to Shane McConkey to everybody, they've all had their moments of they don't want to feel the pressure anymore and they're burned out and they don't feel like doing it, In general, I think that it's very scary to go up on a mountain and stand down a mountain and look down a mountain and realize that you could very easily break your leg or get hurt. So that wears on people's stress and psyche. That leads to people being like burned out and not want to do it.
To the general consumer who watches a ski movie, knowing I was a team manager for a while, and you get dropped off places and you're looking down. And for me, it was like, I'm not a pro skier, man. I'm really good on the computer. But it's like, holy shit, I'm going to fucking die here. Hey, what's the easiest way down? And, the easiest way down is still the toughest thing you've ever skied.
Yeah.
But you have to make it down with a 30-pound battery in your backpack. When you get these guys up there, they're expected to do rad shit on all of this. And eventually, at some points, they might not be feeling it, but they're still on that peak and they still have to drop in.
Exactly. And that's kind of what they're paid to do. And the reality of it is that stress can wear on anybody's psyche and that kind of wear you down. So I saw everybody go through that or fight with that. I quickly realized that I would never be a pro skier. Like I always thought I'm a good skier, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't willing to really take the big hits and really take a big crash like most pro skiers are willing to do.
Yeah, it's part of their job description.
Totally. And like gnarly tomahawks and like slamming super hard. And I was just never willing to go that far to get it done. And anyone who's a pro skier is willing to take that risk and go that and take that route. And it takes a certain kind of person to, one, be willing to do that, to two, have the courage to be like, okay, all the cameras pointed at me. This is about me right now. Yeah. You got to have a big ego. You got to have an inflated sense of self, bit of a narcissist, and an elevated sense of confidence. And with that comes maybe those negative things of like, I don't want to shovel. I'm not getting up today and blah, 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 blah. So.
Did you ever have any great Seth moments? I know I had one in Chile a couple years ago where I had to wake him up in the morning to do a video shoot. And he was just so pissed. Fucking pal wants me up. Fucking pal. I'll do this fucking interview, pal. And like didn't talk to me for a day and then was cool, totally cool the next day.
Yeah.
It's funny how some athletes can be moody, and I know Seth sometimes was, and I don't know if you ever had that with him.
Oh, yeah, totally. I traveled around the world with Seth for almost 10 years, just him and I, so I saw all sides of it. In general, though, I would have to say that he might bitch, like, oh, pal wants me to do this, or Murray, like, fuck, I don't want to get up and go, but he would always do it.
Oh, yeah. He's the most professional skier I've ever worked with.
Yeah. He wasn't afraid to bitch, or if he was in a bad mood. Like, I remember being at we flew all the way to Norway for a shoot, and, the marketing director had given us hotel rooms and I think paid for our flights and given us lift tickets, and he was so proud of his resort. We hike up to the top and we're looking at everything, and we hike up there with the marketing director, and, we get up to the top and he's like all excited and he's like, Seth, what do you think? And Seth stands there and looks around and goes, this place sucks. Like fully like calling it out. And the guy was just so dejected and like, what the fuck? And I'm like standing there like, dude, this guy's fucking paying for everything. He flew us all halfway across the globe. It might suck, you're right, but don't tell him. Yeah. That was a pretty funny Seth moment.
All right, I'm going to jump into one more set of sponsors right now. The first one, brews beer, drinks beer, and has fun doing it, period. I'm talking about the 10 Barrel Brewery based out of Bend, Oregon. And they not only do that, they also support and create a ton of events in the world of snow. They live and breathe the culture, and they want to support it with tasty beers like their Goggle Tan IRA. March is a huge month for 10 Barrel, as they are holding two of their signature Hella Big Air events. The first is at Copper Mountain on March 3rd, and then they bring their final event home to Mount Bachelor on March 31st. These events are all about watching the big dogs huck their meat to get their hands on some of that $30,000 of prize money, and it's about enjoying what 10 Barrel does best, drinking beer outside. If you ski or snowboard, support the beer that supports you. Find out more about the Hella Big Air events and the beer over at 10barrel.com. My final sponsor is the Summit at Snoqualmie, which has been my go-to ski destination for the past 20 years. There's a lot of great skiing in Washington State, but the Summit should be the go-to choice for all Seattle skiers and snowboarders. As far as the mountains are concerned, Alpental is the choice for the hardcore rider, while East, West, and Central have something for everyone. But really, the Summit's 45 minutes from Seattle, which makes powder weekday mornings a reality. You can shred the Summit and be back at your desk by noon. And on weekends, I never spend more than an hour and a half in the car round trip, and I've never had to turn around because I couldn't find a parking spot. It's the only place in Washington that can boast that, and if you don't ski or snowboard, you have to check out the Tubing Hill. It's fun for the whole family, and a must-do if you haven't tried it already. Find out more about skiing, riding, lessons, and tubing at summitatsnoqualmie.com. Those are those sponsors, so we'll get back into it. And I know for an athlete, there's a ton of exposure to be gained by being in one of your movies. Yeah. Ski sponsors are going to pay you guys. You're going to make sure a couple athletes from that brand are in the movies, but that's all a different story. But one thing I want to know with athletes is, do you ever hear anything about an athlete about trying to make money off you? Because they could be out on the hill and get hurt, and you're not going to pay their medical bills because that's not your realm. It's not how it works. And they usually don't generate any income from the movie companies. It's interesting to me because I get it's all about exposure. But do you ever have any athletes that have ever asked you guys to be compensated for their time with you?
You know what? We haven't, because it's just never really been the way that the model works.
Right.
Because what they're doing is so risk oriented. Athletes choose where they go, what line they're going to ski, what they're going to do. And in general, they'll decide what locations we go to. I'm not like, cool, Seth, let's go to Japan and we're going to go to this resort and ski this and do that. They all decide and they pick, and they very much control what their image is. So that's very much been a part of it. The way we make our money is by selling those movies on the back end.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that our movies don't sell millions of copies and they don't generate millions of dollars. So there's never been enough money there to pay the skiers to be a part of it. I think that if they were bigger and they were more popular and that money was there, I'd be happy to pay them.
Yeah.
But it's just too small.
So what it does is it gets them exposure. It makes every kid want to be them and buy their products, and that helps the brands and the athletes.
Yeah.
Sales-wise, in the mid-2000s, I read somewhere that Steve estimated you sold between 50 and 150,000 DVDs or VHS tapes. He estimated that as 4 times what his rivals did, Poor Boys and TGR.
Yeah.
That kind of says where your place in the world is. You were 4 times bigger than them at the height of this.
Yeah.
And you had Video Action Sports back then.
Yeah.
They're the big distributor. They make your life easy. They take a big cut, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they sell all your movies for you. You don't have to deal with anyone, right? Just them?
We always sold individual copies out of our office. Even though they were our distributor, they would pay for the replication of the DVDs, and then they'd sell to retail stores. Yeah. And they'd handle that part of the business.
But you take direct to consumer?
We do direct to consumer. So like if you logged on to skimovie.com or gave us a call, you would call Matchstick's office. We'd package up that DVD and send it right to you out of our office. And we always did that, and we still do that today.
So you can talk to a human at Matchstick and get a video.
Yeah. No one calls anymore, by the way.
But eventually, Video Action Sports, the one that handles all your retail partnerships, they go out of business.
Yeah.
That's got to put a lot of pressure on you guys to figure out how to get your distribution back out there.
Them going out of business, another company quickly picked us up, Wasserman Media, that actually handled the video DVD business. That was a super good partner.
Is that the agency now? Did it develop into that?
Yeah, it did. It did. And then what happened eventually is that the writing was on the wall that people weren't going to buy DVDs anymore.
Yeah.
And that whole business started getting smaller. And, as we all remember, Blockbuster used to be on every corner, and they're now gone.
Yeah. In branching out, you guys also got into mountain biking at that point.
Yeah, we did. We actually were approached by Freeride Entertainment in the mid-'90s. Derek Westerling came to us, and he had wanted really to make mountain bike movies, and no one was really doing it at the time. And he had Fox the Foxhead, the clothing company, was like, I'll give you a bunch of money, but you need to partner with someone who knows what they're doing so you could actually guarantee if I give you $100,000 that a movie will come out. And so he came to us and he's like, you guys know how to make movies. If I get you behind me, I'll be able to get this money. And he did a really good job of selling in Bike Magazine and Fox Clothing and Kona Mountain Bikes all got behind it. And we did that with him for like almost 7 years, I think.
That New World Disorder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are really successful, right?
Super successful and opened a lot of doors for us. Had a great time. Got to filmed Josh Bender in Virgin, Utah, which eventually became the genesis for what Red Bull Rampage is now.
Yeah.
You know, on those very same cliffs. It was one dude with a vision to ride his mountain bike off a cliff, which at the time we were laughing like, this is the fucking craziest thing you could ever do.
2 inches of travel. And
yeah, exactly.
And how do bike flicks do compared to ski movies? Are more bike movies being sold than ski or more ski than bike?
At that particular time, more ski than bike because we'd been around longer.
Yeah.
So we had a name and I think that one thing about skiing that I think it makes so unique and lets you make ski movies, and Warren Miller, you know, created this model, but skiing can't be done at any time, at any moment. You have to have the right day and the right time.
Yeah.
And there's a very real sense of anticipation for the season. So it's a very real ritual for skiers to get together in the fall and get excited for the upcoming winter and where it might snow and what those days are going to look like and when's it going to happen. So that'll always allow ski movies to sell really well. It's really a part of the sport.
It's what everybody looks forward to in the fall. You get your pray for snow parties, your ski premieres, you get to see all your old friends, and then ski season's on. And
exactly. But mountain biking didn't really have that. It didn't have like, oh, it's mountain biking season. Mountain biking season's all the time. So those didn't sell as big, but they did well. And, you know, that sport, as we all know, you know, today, it's probably bigger than skiing.
I would think so, too. More people can do it.
Yeah.
In terms of revenue and the way you live, I mean, I know Steve bought like a great house that you had an office out of with 3 decks and full-on mini mansion, right?
Yeah.
You guys are doing pretty well. I think money is coming in from the videos that you're producing.
Yeah.
Money's coming in from television content that you're producing.
Yeah.
You've got this bike side. So you're probably working with some brands and doing little pieces for them here and there too, because I'm sure they want to work with Matchstick if they can.
Yeah. And in 2000s, though, it wasn't like today where every brand needed a video. They knew that they needed it, but they didn't really always want to spend the money to make it. In the 2000s, we were making most of our money off sponsorship and television deals for sure. Creating television content for companies. When HDTV was launched, we worked for a network that was one of the first to put out an HD signal. And so they saw action sports as a very real, easy way to show off the beauty of HD.
Yeah.
It was like beautiful mountains and big stunts and generally cheap production.
Can you make 6 figures doing what you're doing?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It took a long time to even make enough money to live off, probably 5 years.
That's not that long of a time, though, really.
It's not, but I think for what most people are like, go to a job and get paid and get a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Sure.
But it wasn't like that ever. It was you hustle for a year, and at the end of the year, you might get a big bonus if you end up saving enough money or getting enough deals or whatever it is. But yeah, you can make money.
What year did you feel like you were finally like, okay, I can pay my bills? You were comfortable?
If I started in 1993, I'd say probably around 1998.
So you put 5 years in, really hard work.
And that heli crash was a huge setback.
Yeah.
And that was just when we were getting started. So that was our 3rd film, and Greg Stump wasn't really in the game anymore. That company I was talking about, Real Action Pictures, they were a big player. They were gone. So we were like really the only ones in the space. There was no GGR. There was no Level 1. There was no Poor Boys. And we were kind of the only ones in the space. We were doing well, and we were getting pretty big deals. Then that heli crash happened, and that really took the wind out of our sails. And, you know, a lot of effort went to like making sure my business partner was going to survive and be okay. And then the guy who died, T.R. Youngstrom, that was really sad. So that like really was a big setback. And then that next year, it was tough to go on and raise money and then keep going with the projects. And so probably took another couple years after that to really turn it into something.
As we get to more modern times of the movie, there's the one thing I think I definitely talked to you about this at a urinal at your premiere this year. Your movie changed last year. It was totally different. To me, MSP is a lot of metal and some rad skiing.
Yeah.
And it is the images, the sound, and the crazy skiing and personalities. And then last year, you guys went a totally different direction.
Totally.
And you went to tell a story. It had a lot more culture to it.
Yeah.
It dealt with kids, all stuff I don't care about that much.
Yeah.
But commercially, I think it was very successful for you guys.
Yeah.
But how did the fans react to that? Because everybody expects one thing from you.
Yeah.
And then you come with something totally different, and it's shocking to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And I think that what happens, and I've talked about this a lot with other producers, is when you do the same thing year in, year out, which is just skiing and music and rad and like, let's go. As a creative, it tends to be boring.
Sure.
I want to try something different. And we really, at Matchstick, we couldn't do the same old thing again. It was just like, we got to try something different. We got to dive into this, and we got to try to tell a story and get away and, create a message and craft something more creative. And that was really what we wanted to do with that film. And in the end of the day, audiences like ski bums for on tour, they hated it. It was like the worst. Like people were booing in the theaters. Like our Facebook reactions were the feedback was shit. But that film is actually sold to major television distributors across the world because it has a story and there's more to it. So the executives sitting in those offices can understand it, and they can be like, oh, cool, I get the way this thing works, and it's like creative and it has all these things and this message. So it did well in that sense. But it's good for us to kind of see that reality check. What really was burning us out, and the worst thing that we could hear, is the MSP formula. And all these reviews over and over for years and years. The MSP formula of getting the best skiers and setting it to rap music and going to the best locations. And we'd be like, MSP formula? No, we don't want to be formula. We don't want to be Warren Miller. We don't want to do the same thing year in, year out. We don't want to have a formula. We can do whatever we want. And that was kind of our attempt to, go in that different direction and do that. And yeah, it was interesting to get that fan reaction.
And I think what it really did for you is with that fan reaction that year, it had to be hard to accept that. I mean, on paper, if you're selling more, it's great. You're going to make more money. But the people that you care about aren't reacting positively to it. That's got to frustrate you. But what it did is when you went back to that MSP formula this year, it lets you know how great people think it is.
Exactly. It's
feedback
true.
you got this year, I mean, had to be through the roof.
Yeah, for sure. And, it just reminded us that our most successful films that we've ever done have been the funniest and fun and really celebrate having a good time in the mountains.
Yep.
And it's just reaffirming to us each time. And that's what basically got us back this year, is just reaffirm that people they want to see rad skiing, they want to hear fun music, and they want to have fun jokes.
Yep.
And they want to have a good time. And that's really all that they want out of it. And Warren Miller realized that within his second year of movie making, and he stuck to that formula for, he's like 60 films.
Yeah, it's crazy.
60 years or something at the same exact formula. And it's just what people want. And I get it. That's what I want too. Skiing's a fun time. And the more that we celebrate that, the better it is. And for us to take a film like Ruin and Rose and not have a fun message, talk about a world without water as a central theme of it, which, we're headed to.
I forget who, but one country's about to run out of water right now. I forget.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say April, they're going to be done.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And, when we started making movies, there was no one sold a bottle of water.
Yeah.
That was not a thing.
Yeah.
And now it's a very common thing that when it first was for sale, people were like, why would you pay $1 for a bottle of water and go get it out of the tap? And now it's fucking everywhere.
There's a whole industry built around water containers.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
It's huge.
There's 20 or 30 brands here that are selling their water containers.
Yeah. So for us to bring that message in what is kind of an escapist sport just didn't really work.
Yeah. And I mean, I think about the movie is, I know what you're doing all year long, but I think about MSP one night a year. When you guys come into my town and I'm going to go see your movie and I'm going to be psyched. And then I'll talk about it. That's the thing is you see it one night, then you talk about it to your friends. And I think that's how that generates sales, views, whatever you're getting. Totally. And it's that one night where you walk out and, that one year I was calling friends like, what do you think of MSP? And then it was so refreshing this year. Yeah.
I mean, we sold out 31 of our first 35 shows this year. So it was very real audience reaction to a pretty funny trailer as well. People knew what they were going to get. And It's interesting too, like I'm old, I'm 50 and I still like.
You're 50?
Yeah.
Jesus, you don't look 50. You look like 49.
Yeah, exactly. I am 49 actually. I'll be 50 in March. It's still like 25-year-old dudes. This is all of our audience, and it's in general, it's a pretty young crowd that's into it. And I think that's because skiing's hard.
Yeah. You get the 25-year-olds, but you get people up to 50 that remember what you're doing with Ski Movie, and they're always going to want to see MSP.
Yeah. Oh, we still have fans that email us and like, I've got every movie back to Soul Sessions, on the shelf, and they'll still buy our DVD every year when it comes out. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Murray, last time we talked, I had some inappropriate questions set up for you, and I didn't play them. I've got them recorded now. It's a couple weeks after the interview, and I'm going to dial in some inappropriate questions. I'll let our guest who's going to ask them introduce himself, and then he will give you the first question.
Hey guys, Josh Salvo here. I'm the co-founder of ReadyEddy.com, which is a outdoor site focused on showcasing startups in the outdoor space, skiing, climbing, hiking, snowboarding, anything outdoor related. We got it on the site. So if you want to check that out, you can. But the reason Mike brought me on here is to ask a few inappropriate questions to Murray. So I'll start off with question number 1. So obviously, Murray, you have worked with a lot of the greats in skiing and snowboarding. You've made a ton of films working with Seth and Shane. I want to ask, which dude do you know that you go on trips with that is a loose cannon and really gets you guys into trouble? And what kind of shit did that dude do?
Pretty self-explanatory there. Who created a lot of problems for you on the road?
I'd say that probably, thinking back off the top of my head, Aaron McGovern was always really problematic for us on the road. He just had problems with drinking and alcohol abuse, and he would drink too much and get out of control and cause fights and bring an uproar. Since, I know he's been sober for the last 3 or 4 years, and he's really turned his life around, so kudos to him. But yeah, all that drinking always led to a lot of problems.
And you say drinking led to a lot of problems, but drinking can also be fun. I mean, were there any moments where Aaron was fun when he was hammered, or was it always something where you're like, Jesus, we got to get out of here?
If there are fun moments, I don't remember him as much. He would tip pretty quickly once he started drinking. I do remember, though, one moment in particular that it seemed problematic at the time, but it was actually pretty cool looking back on it. We were at a pretty rambunctious party in Chamonix, France, and Aaron was there, and he was with a pretty big sponsor of the event, a ski team sponsor, and they were standing around talking, and the guy casually says to Aaron, "Oh, look at so-and-so on the podium. It's so amazing. We didn't even have to pay him. All I did was give him free skis. Ha, ha, ha." And Aaron took that as an insult and jumped the guy and started choking him out and started a brawl at the bar, which is kind of cool, he's standing up for skiers, but it didn't go down very well with the event organizers and most of the people at the event at the time.
Yeah, and I guess that's how you lose all your sponsors. I don't know if it was that trip, but eventually that happens when you drink too much. But I'm going to jump into question number 2.
Okay.
Do you guys sit in a room each year, script out a movie or plan a trip, and then say, oh, who are we going to bring as the token female? Do you ever hear the chatter that there's really no women in ski films, and do you feel like you're part of the problem?
Ooh, putting you on the hot seat right there. In a lot of these movies, you get 1 or 2 women. I think right now you have Elise, and who else do you guys have?
In last year's movie, we filmed Elise and Michelle Parker.
You have 2 females, but I think when you look at ski movies in general, there aren't as many women in the sport as men in the filming portion of it, it seems like. And that puts a big red flag over you guys and from a lot of people out there looking, saying, hey, where are all the women here? And how do you answer that question?
Well, in all honesty, when we started Matchstick Productions back in the early 90s, there were no women at all. We always took great pride in showing women in our films as rippers. And while we only did feature 1 of 19, we did have women in there. The reality is we do not sit around and have a meeting and be like, who's our token female? We kind of plan out our cast, and it all really happens. The production cycle for a movie, you have to realize the shooting takes place from January to April and most of the fundraising. So a lot of it just kind of happens day to day organically and on the fly. In general, having that one female in there she has always been most women that are featured in our films, kind of the underdog and people cheer about and really like. With that being said, I'm currently working on a project with Matchstick Productions that actually features a female majority cast.
Whoa.
And that film will be released in the fall of 2018. So we're in production of that right now, and that film will have more females than males, actually.
So that is a step in the right direction. I'm going to see if we have a third question here, but if not, I'm going to come up with one off the top of my head. He did not ask a third question, but that's okay, because that's why I am here. Travel-wise, you travel a ton, and when you do travel, you're going to forget things. You're going to have shit shows go on with the airlines, and unfortunately for you, you're the guy behind this huge production, and when I say huge, I mean multi-million-dollar ski film, and when you get somewhere and something's missing, what's the worst thing you've ever forgotten where you really dropped the ball and everything was on your shoulders?
Oh, Mike, there's been so many things forgotten. One, I just want to clarify, we've never actually yet to have a multi-million-dollar production.
It costs billions to make your movies.
Well, maybe someday we'll have $1 million production, but not quite yet. Soon. The hardest part about ski movies, right, is that you're always searching for that prime day. New powder, no wind, blue skies, no avalanches. And that probably happens 5 or 6 days a year around the globe. And when those days hit, you have to be ready. And that's just the job. And that's the hardest part about making ski movies, besides the injuries. But I've forgotten a tripod back at the base when we flew out in a helicopter before and got out there to take our first shot and realized that all I had was a camera and no tripod to work with. I've also forgotten my passport on trips to Canada, and luckily I've never been denied access, but I have forgotten my passport and we ended up getting in. One thing that I have learned over the years is that you never harp or rag on someone for forgetting something, because as soon as you do that, the very next person who forgets something will be you, and that's a standing policy we have with all our crew.
I was going to ask you if anybody ever gave you shit for forgetting stuff, but I guess that policy you have sums that up.
Oh, of course they give me shit. They can give me shit. I just don't want my other guys giving each other shit. I can take all the shit I want.
That's going to do it for Inappropriate Questions. I think what you guys have done over the years has been amazing, and you've built an industry. You've kind of reinvented an industry, Yeah. I mean, we're Barrymore and then
Warren Miller,
Stump. They've all created movies. Well, you took that and you're the new school of that.
Yeah.
And you made skiing cool again. And it's a lot of that credit goes to you and your movies,
Yeah.
which is pretty awesome. I should apologize now. At the K2 back 9 years back, we couldn't let you guys in. You probably got in, but a few of your crew couldn't get in because the fire marshal was there and he was not going to let anyone else in there. And a couple of the guys in your crew, I thought were going to kick my ass for not letting them in. They're like, you know who we are? I'm like, yeah, I do. And if this fire marshal guy wasn't here, I would let you in, but there's nothing I can do.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. Thanks for your time. Let's go do this trade show, and I'll look forward to what you guys put together next year.
No, thanks for having me. I enjoy your podcast. It's awesome, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So that was time with Murray Wais, and man, the things he has seen and the things we didn't talk about. I'm sure he could go on for days with stories about Shane McConkey and Seth Morrison and who knows who else. Murray's work has impacted a generation of skiers, and it's cool to hear where he came from and how he came up. Next week, snowboarding is back in the mix. I had a few snowboarders who were in the Olympics that were going to be on the show, and it was going to be a great mix of ski and snowboarders who are Olympians, but the snowboarders flaked on me. They know who they are. It's a bummer they weren't on the show. I'll worry about them in another 4 years. Maybe next year, who knows? Someone who is not flaky is next week's guest. He's all of about 5 feet 4 inches, and he's a snowboarding OG. He's known for stupid gaps and a sense of humor in his movie parts. I'm talking about Mikey LeBlanc, and he's been a pro snowboarder for over 20 years. He started Holden Clothing, and we talk tall tales about his life and times. That is next week. Until then, please review me on whatever platform you listen to me on. Tell your friends about the show. And finally, I want to thank my sponsors. They are Evo, Rescue Water, the 10 Barrel Brewery, and the Summit at Snoqualmie. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week.